you have some interesting background that has to do with today's topic, which is exercise. Can you tell our audience about that?
Yeah, so glad to be back. It's such a fun group to be with. So yes, it's with our discussion together, we realized that I started prior to my medical school. I did what you call here kinesiology, and then I pursue after my degree and doing a master into the domain of obesity and exercise physiology. So everything that I am doing now started with really a foundation of exercise. I was passionate about running, and I became a pretty decent marathon runner. With age, I move on to bike and doing a lot of traveling with bike and weight training. So I'm in my room during the winter time. I do a little bit more weight, more stability, more flexibility. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this is where everything that I've done started. I start with that. Then I went to medical school. Then I did my specialty in OBGYN. Was very passionate about helping my patient, changing their lifestyle. Lots of emphasis on movement, and then eventually joined the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and realized the importance of the plant-based. So I think that fits all together. So I'm happy to be able to offer that to you, your people, and to all my patients.
When choosing a doctor, there's really not much that people can go by. So I know for me, when I moved into a new area, I was looking at the photographs of the doctors.
That's
Because
interesting. I guess I'm gonna have to change my picture now that I know what you're
no, I
saying.
wanted to see that they looked healthy, you know? And
Okay.
right. And there were doctors that I was looking at that they didn't look like they were healthy. So I didn't think that they could help me optimize my health if they weren't
Mm.
optimizing theirs. So I'm not going to go into detail, but that's kind of because I other than, well, you are with plant-based telehealth, so I could have a consult with you, but I couldn't have a physical one-on-one consult with you. So for me to have that checkup in that way, I was searching for doctors in my area. But it is nice to know that people can go to plant-based telehealth and meet with a doctor like you that walks the walk and knows how to take care of themselves. And if you had a question about exercise and how to eat properly or anything like that, that's something else that you could discuss with these patients, which is it's very refreshing and really nice.
Hey,
So
it's a good compliment. I hear what you're saying when you say I want to go local. I will see my physician that will do the baseline of what I need. But then there's this above and beyond where, and we often say, and we've discussed it together, optimal health, where it's interesting to, okay, where are you at, and what can I bring you so that you really stay healthy, remain healthy, and being careful for any injuries. So that's why it's important to have the chance to discuss a little bit above and beyond of what your yearly exam consists of.
right. So I encourage people to go on plantbasedtelehealth.com and you can speak to one of the doctors and have a just one consult. You don't even have to have a subscription. You can just have one and done, or you can have it's kind of like an a la carte thing, which is really nice. So, but we're here to talk about exercise, and it's so cool that you have so much knowledge in so many areas, and then to top it off, you're very knowledgeable about exercise. And oftentimes we adopt this plant-based lifestyle, or we're trying to eat healthier, and it makes you kind of want to do better. And then you start thinking about the other areas of your life that you might want to optimize, and sometimes exercise is one of those things that comes to mind. But if you haven't been active, or if you haven't been active in a very long time, you could have injury. And there's just so many mysteries to exercise. So what I wanted to do was, we have our game, which is called True or False, and we do that with our listeners and viewers. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to have our True or False game, and we're going to, just Test Voice is going to tell us about that.
It's time for True or False on Be Green with Amy Live. Answer true or false to Amy's questions in the comments below, and Amy will ask our guest for the expert answer.
Okay, so our first question is true or false? The best exercise for weight loss is cardio. Oh my goodness. I think that's a really good question. So guys, just type in your answer. And while you're typing in, Dr. Fontaine, can you answer that question for us?
Well, you always ask those questions where it could be easy to say one side or the other. So, I think that in the mind of people, that often what they want to think is cardio. But cardio, it all depends how much you're doing. If you're doing cardio and you do 6-7 hours, like time you can see on the guy that I do in the Tour de France, you're probably going to lose a lot of weight. But I think that the good balance really between doing some cardio, which could be walking, running, biking, and doing some weight resistant is important, because we've discussed that in the other presentation when we were discussing osteoporosis. You got to be able to maintain your muscle mass to help the bone mass, and muscle is what's burning the energy. So therefore, that's why the weight training a little bit in the resistant doesn't need like you have to lift heavy weight, but just the band and something to that effect could be really, really, really good as well.
Yeah, because I think that's what people are trying to do. And they have that saying that a lot of the doctors will say you can't outrun a bad diet. So I guess cardio could be good for weight loss, but you also have to make sure that, that you're not overdoing it on the calories too. So here's another true or false question. True or false, crunches are the best exercise for tightening abdominal muscles and flattening the tummy bulge. Wow, this is something that a lot of people want to know about. And that's all they think, oh, I got to get rid of that bulge, so I got to do some crunches. So what do you say, Dr. Fontaine?
Yeah, I guess I'll have to say it's a false thinking about that. So you can certainly do a lot of crunch, and that will give you potentially a six pack that will be hidden behind the potential abdominal fat, but that is not what's going to make your abdomen being flat. So a lot of time we have accumulation of fat that could be just under the skin that we call subcutaneous, and sometimes fat that is more accumulated inside the abdomen. That's the one that's a little bit more inflamed. And you can do as much crunch as you want. It's not going to take care of that kind of fat. So the best thing on that, again, would be prevention. Exercise is amazing, but prevention is the best. And it doesn't, in itself, people think about exercise for weight loss. But don't forget that exercise is amazing to keep your cardio in good shape. So that's huge. You got to make sure that you're not only thinking about eating well, which is amazing, but that you put some movement into your life. So we don't like to discuss as much in saying exercise than trying to talk about movement to encourage people just to be active, as opposed to definitely go for, let's say, a half hour gung-ho in the gym.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important. And Andrea had a question. She said, my neck hurts when I do sit-ups. Is there proper form?
Yeah, so that's a good example. Too bad that it would be easier for me to demonstrate maybe, but so we have a tendency when we do sit up to put our neck folded and bring it like that. That's and bring it to the knee. So that is not exactly what you want to do. So when you are, let's say, on your back, you want to put your hand, you don't have to put behind your head, but you want to put and lift the shoulder so that your head, neck stays straight. So see what I'm doing? You lift the shoulder. You don't do this. You don't fold it so that you prevent injury to your neck. Maybe the demonstration is not as good as if I was laying down, but that is the way to be careful. I still see a lot of people that are doing the sit up with their neck, folded in the front, and that will cause some pain. So make sure that you lift the shoulder, keep that head straight up.
That's good advice. I like to do different workout videos, and it's so fun how some of the coaches on these videos, they kind of anticipate maybe your form might not be good during a certain part of the exercise. And so often during a lot of the different exercises that I do, they'll say, keep your chin off your chest, and it seems like,
Correct.
yeah. So, and I'll be like, oh, okay.
True,
You catch
true.
yourself doing that. And just like you said, so I guess maybe you'd have to think of where to focus your eyes too, when you're doing that crunch, right? So making sure that
Exact.
you're not
So you're
looking.
right. Mm. You're looking up, instead of, so you fix something that is higher so that you can just stay in the right position. And you're right. Nowadays, the video that we look, they're really paying attention to the form. So it's very good, very different than what we used to have in the past. I wanted to give you a little comment. I love your band, but I think you need to have a band that will say "Be Green with Amy."
I
That's the one. You need to have that.
know.
Yeah, a
I
green with a
need
little bit
some
of
Be Green
pink.
with Amy stuff, t-shirts,
We need that.
sweatband. Yep, good
And
idea.
everybody's going to have it when we go and do our exercise.
Yes,
Talking about exercise. Let's do this.
let's do it. Okay, I'm going to put that in the good idea list. Okay. Oh, here's another true or false, guys. Get ready. True or false? Before working out, you should stretch to prevent injuries. Okay, what do you say, Dr.
So,
Fontaine?
yeah, that's an interesting one. We used to stretch all the time, and then before doing any kind of exercise, and then suddenly you had all these research that said that you don't need to stretch as much. I still encourage people to be careful. It's not a good idea, especially if you want to go into a strenuous type of exercise. It's important to stretch a little bit before you go, so that it doesn't have to be a half-hour stretch. A little 10 minutes to get you going, or even walking prior to. It's good advice.
Right. And I think a lot of people would think that stretching means that they're supposed to be, touching their toes or some kind of crazy move, but it's just to get
Mm.
the blood circulating and moving. So it's not necessarily making yourself into a pretzel to be a
Oh,
stretch.
I wish I could do that. I've lost my ability to be a pretzel
Ah,
with age.
ah, ah,
I've never been. I was a runner. A runner
oh,
is in itself. It's not very common that a runner will have good flexibility,
oh,
and therefore, with running quite a bit, I've never been very good in flexibility. But I still do my yoga and my
yeah.
Pilates, and just to push a little bit and not exaggerating, but wanted to keep my flexibility, which we lose easily with aging.
Yes, we do. And always been a dream of mine to be able to do things like doing the splits and things like that. So I have been working on that a lot. And I've actually
To
made
do,
to do the
yeah.
splits. Yeah. And I've
Oh,
actually made
wow.
some progress where, I mean, I'm not an Olympian, but I'm getting there. And I just every day
Uh,
I just say I'm gonna do a little work on doing the splits and then it's been a long time. But I took
we
some.
need we need to have a camera where you go on the floor and show us the split.
Yeah, I have it in my blog. I'll put that in my blog because I announced this event in my blog, and I'll put some of those pictures in there. I have this thing that if people want some free recipes, they can type in be green with Amy /join, and I send them a series of recipes, and I have some of those pictures that I send them just to kind of encourage them and show them that, it's never too late. You can't, you can always, and what do you think? I mean, it's, even though we decline with age, but it's never too late to improve your strength. Would you say that, Dr. Fontaine?
Oh, absolutely. It's so important. It's even more important things that were natural when we were younger and we think we don't have to make an effort. But the more you age, the more it is important, because there's such a substantial difference between the people that had remained active. And it doesn't mean you have to run a triathlon or marathon in order to be active. But between doing some activity versus doing nothing, you can see a substantial difference. These people are more able to continue their day-to-day life routine, which sometimes appear to be simple, but being able to shovel the snow, go to the grocery, go and get your mail. I do a lot of work with people that are older, and sometimes it's a limiting factor just to go get your mail. I'm like, we really have to encourage people to put into their schedule a time where they take it for themselves so they enjoy it. Probably the biggest thing that I tell people is, and don't force yourself to do an activity just because everybody else is doing it. It's not because everybody's doing Peloton that you have to do Peloton. There might be something else that you have much more interest, and that's what you need to focus on. So I have one of the person that I'm helping. She used to be a tap dancer, and finally she said, you know what? I wonder if I could find a tap dancing class. I said, yeah, let's do this. And now she's doing her tap dancing. I'm like, perfect. This is what works for you. Otherwise, activity. And she had a Peloton at home. So yeah, I can do that. But obviously, that was not what brought her to move. The tap dancing was just perfect. So
Yeah, that reminds me how when I was a child, I tried to hula hoop and I wasn't successful. So I, of course, thought that I just wasn't one of those people that could. And as an adult, I found out that to do a hula hoop successfully, you need a larger diameter hula hoop because you don't have to work as hard to make it go around. And so as a beginner, you can start with a much larger hula hoop. And then as you progress, you can work your way down to a smaller one in diameter. So I did that. I started to learn how to hula hoop, and you can go on YouTube and see all kinds of people showing you with instructional videos. And it's not just hula hooping around your waist. You can raise your arms up in the air and hula hoop, and you can pass it around you. And there's just a lot of different things, and it's kind of a dance form. And when I was doing it, the time just, even though I was, perspiring and I was a little out of breath sometimes, the time just kind of flew by, and I didn't really feel like I was exercising. I just felt like I was having fun.
exact. I actually went to see my daughter, and they have the kids always have these things on video, and they had that game where you had to follow the dancer. And to tell you the truth, with the music, which is fun, she really likes that. So I said, I'm going to try it. I have to admit, that was a good exercise because, you had to follow. And so even if we always envision exercise has to be, we see people that are so good in one of their activity. They're the best in running. They're the best in weightlifting. And it's hard for us to realize what is it that we can do. We can do so many things that, just gardening, just cutting, go outside, cutting trees, cleaning is an activity that helps to spend calories as opposed to focusing on a half hour. Like I said earlier, go to the gym and then the rest of the day, you're not active. Multiply all these little movement during the day has a substantial impact on your health and maintaining your weight.
Right. And I learned a trick from someone that I had interviewed, and she had said that she keeps hand weights near her computer. So she could just be watching a video or something and just pick up the hand weight and just do a few reps there. And some people even like to keep them all over the house so that when they're sitting by the TV, every time a commercial comes on, they pick up the hand weight, and it doesn't have to be heavy. It could even be a 1 pound thing, or maybe a can of vegetables or something. What do you say?
Just used to watch TV, and when there was a break, those big. Now they skip all the break. But
Yeah.
you're right. When there was a break, people would stand and take those weights and do the weights. Now people can skip
They
the
can skip
breaks,
it.
so they
Yeah.
don't do it. But it's such a beautiful example. This is simple, and it works. And probably one of the messages: don't start with the mind that you're going to do, let's say, I'm going to go for an hour. If you haven't done anything and you want to start being active, start with little. You know, it's always the question of the power of habits. I was just reading, I love I have huge interest on the habits, because I think that's what make a big difference of allowing people to do something. So there's the book that Atomic Habits from I think it's James Green. It's just these explanation again of starting with one little thing at a time. Just as simple as put your running shoes beside your bed. The first few days, just look at them and then put them and go for a minute or two. That seems to be crazy simple, but it developed the habits. And then eventually it's going to be 5, and 5 is going to be 10, and then up to what you're looking for. So start simple, start with little, and then keep increasing, and eventually you're going to get where you want to be. Same thing for people that want to do it 5 kilometers, or it's all the same. You got to start simple, little bit, and then you keep increasing, and eventually you become you might be able to run your first 5K.
Yes, and just little by little, it's amazing what you can work up to. And we were talking a little bit about aging, and it's so important, especially people who are concerned. And we can get into the osteoporosis too, but people as they age, especially, are concerned about falling. And so it's really, I guess, would you say that it would be important to do good exercises for balance? Because Amy wanted to know what are good exercises for balance.
Mm-mm. No, I totally agree. Balance is important. You know, when you think about osteoporosis, we often think about diet and the prevention, which we have discussed, and to do weight bearing exercise in order to maintain muscle mass. But one of the things is prevention too, and prevention is how you can, maintain your balance. So a lot of exercise, you can certainly try to do some exercise on one leg. And you don't have to start with any weight, but just the balance on one leg, like um, got a blank here of the exercise that I want to name. But if you just bring your body down on one leg and lift the other back leg up, and then it forces you into your balance, and then you switch to the other leg, like it's like a one leg deadlift. I don't know if people know what a deadlift is, but you kind of slide your weight into the front of your legs when you do a deadlift. So if you do it on one leg, so you got to put the stability on one leg and just go down very easily on one leg. You don't even have to have weight and to do that, and alternate. The other thing that is sometimes very difficult to do on balance is being able to put one foot in front of the other one without making any effort of closing your eyes to start with. You can actually do this. And then the other after is to try to do it with closing your eyes. I will
Wow.
tell you that it is simple. You're staying right there, one foot right in front of the other. Don't try closing your eyes at first, and then try very gently, and then try keeping your arms. You're going to see it takes a few seconds and you're off balance. So it's simple little thing. Or just when you stand up, usually from being on the ground, attempt to do it on one leg. You're going to see it's very challenging. If you look at the blue zone, and you look at some of the video that demonstrate people from China that are able to live up to 90, they can stand up from your legs across. They're able to stand up from sitting up. That is not only balance, but it's strength that they've kept without going to the gym. These people are just keeping their form by doing this simple movement every day. So balance is huge. There's a lot of exercise or that you can do also with what they call the Tai Chi. So, you can see the Chinese group doing that, where they do very slow movement, and it's very slow, but it often will go from one leg to another. And that you really need to have some excellent balance to do that. So those are very, very, when you look at it, you think, oh my gosh, I'm not going to do that. This is not very active. This is the perception we have as North American, because we want action. We want to go fast. We want to do kickboxing. We want to do things very quickly. But if you look at them, they go very slow. And the majority that do that, they're pretty slim. they have an amazing balance, and at the same time, use a lot of meditation in order to being able to keep their balance and their flow. So that's an amazing way to do that as well with the Tai Chi.
Yeah, I have a video on that, because when I was meeting in person with my plant-based group, we would have different guest speakers, and we had a woman actually demonstrate the Tai Chi, and I felt the same way about it. I said, oh, this is going to be, a really easy, boring kind of thing. But I got up there and did it. The whole group did it with her. And I consider myself pretty decent shape, and, I do all kinds of workouts every day. And I was really amazed. And she was older than me, and she just made it look like it was just a very boring, simple thing to do. And when I followed along, I couldn't believe it. The muscle. Oh,
this person, by having such an amazing balance, the good thing is that it shows that it's such an amazing way to prevent fall. And for the women that have a high risk of osteoporosis as we age, our biggest problem is falling. If we don't have the balance, and you don't need to go skiing and hit a tree. Most of people I see is a simple little fall in their house where the balance, was not perfect, and then the accident came. So Tai Chi, you can do it at home. You can do a YouTube video and learn it, and it would be an amazing form of balance exercise.
yeah, I agree with you. And they say also that we tend to not walk in all directions, that we usually are walking forward, and that we don't very often walk sideways to either side or even backwards. So maybe that's something that people could try when they're in a safe place, when there aren't things around them that they can trip on.
Yeah,
They could
that's
maybe try
a
to.
good complement of the one leg balance in Tai Chi. You're right, and again, you can do it while you're listening to your radio, cooking, waiting for something to be ready. It's all these things that we tend to forget, that you can move while you're doing something else. It's just part of our life, to be a little bit more on the side of being sedentary as opposed to, the movement.
Right. Okay, so then we were talking a little bit about weights, and we have another true or false question, guys. True or false? Women should lift lower weights and do higher repetitions than men. So what do you think about that, Dr.
Well, I don't know
Fontaine?
if it's true or false. You have to think that women has a little bit less, muscle density than men. So even if I want to lift, and I do lift probably more often than my husband, I'm sure that he can just come and do more, heavier than I can. So that's just the way we're built. There is women, however, that are, much stronger than men. They have a good muscle mass, but it's not very common. We're usually going to see women that have less muscle mass, and there is no reason why it would be less repetition. It's what you decide to do, and as long as you do it in a progressive way, you can do exactly the same as men, maybe with a lesser weight. That I will admit that you cannot, lift as heavy as the men would be able to.
Okay, so what is the difference between crunches and sit-ups?
But it's a different way to say it, but in itself, I think that people use the same. To me, it's pretty much the same crunch
Okay.
and sit ups, just the way you position yourself. And your sit up is what we used to say 40 years ago. Now we see crunch. It's just a different terminology, but I don't see it as being different, at least for me.
Okay. Another thing that people have asked me about and is these protein supplements because they get active and they think that they have to have these protein powders. And what do you say to that?
So, it all depends how much you're able to. If you have a good diet and you're able to, and we know that there's sufficient amount of protein into a plant-based diet. There's actually a good book that just came in July. There's multiple book on plant-based and exercise, but there's a new one, and the name of the author just. But if you look under Amazon plant-based and exercise, it's going to come to you. And you have all the
Is
name
that the
of
one with Robert
individual.
Cheeke and Matt Fraser and Robert Cheeke?
Yeah,
Is that
that's it.
uh-huh.
And so they name in their chapter all the amazing athlete that we all know, professional or amateur, that are now plant based and have a good muscle mass. And I will have to say that they don't discuss that they're taking any protein supplement. They just supplement with a good plant-based diet. So as an example, you can use the sister Williams, Serena Williams, that are tennis player that are, very nicely built. You have Tom Brady, which is, quarterback and is an amazing football player. There's multiple athletes now that are going into this world of plant-based. They feel a lot better, less inflamed. They're having better results. So it makes an amazing difference. And from what I've read, I don't see that they're taking any supplement. Am I against the supplement? No, I think that if it's something that allows you to mix your fruits and your greens and put a little bit of supplement and drink it with your preferred oat milk or soy milk, I don't think it's negative. Are you going to come out being Arnold Schwarzenegger after you drink it? I don't think so. But it's okay if you. And there's some plant-based now. I've looked into it. There's some plant-based protein. So if it's something that interests you, you're going to be careful. There's usually lots of carbs that could be a little bit more than what you want. So just to keep an eye on it.
All right. So Emily wants to know, what should I eat before exercising in the morning? Should I eat anything at all? What about recovery drink and food? That's a good
Yeah,
question.
that's a very good question. And sometimes it could be very personal. So when I was training more in the morning, I would tend to drink a little bit of water and not eat too much, because if you want, and when I was running, especially when it was a running exercise, it's hard to run after you ate, meal. It could be a little something, like half a banana is okay, but it's very hard to eat before you do aerobic exercise. Now, if you are planning, let's say, for a weight training exercise, you might be able to have, a breakfast, or even going biking. For me, I'm able to eat before I go biking, because it's not the same as being, running. It all depends on also on how much you're going to do. So usually if it's for a run, I probably won't eat too much. And it's not bad if you do not eat before you go your exercise, as long as it's not a long exercise. When you come back, it's fine to have more carbs. So we're talking about carbs, the good carbs, that you can eat a lot of fruits, and use some fiber as much as you can into this. So, and you can certainly add some green into, we have a tendency to want to eat simply sweet more in the morning, but it's fine to have to use and eat some greens, eat some rice or oatmeal, and lots of fruits when you come back from exercise. That would be a good way to start your day.
Okay, well, that's good, because a lot of people really they worry about that. For me, before I adopted this whole food plant-based lifestyle, if I wanted to exercise in the morning, I couldn't do anything unless I had a meal, because I would be so shaky. and I didn't realize it was because I just wasn't eating properly, that I was just getting cravings for things and getting toxic hunger. It was a totally different way. And now I can wake up in the morning, I make sure that I have some water, but I don't even eat anything, and it doesn't even occur to me to eat. So it's really nice to have stable blood sugar levels. So, but I'm not running a 5K or a
But
10K.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Everybody, you have to listen to your body. We're all different, and what works for me may not be working for you. So you got to be careful also the amount of exercise that you're going to do, so that you can, feed your body properly.
Okay, good advice. So James says, I get cramps in one or both feet in my arch during exercise when jumping. Advice?
Cramps in both feet, like the plantar fasciitis kind of thing. I think that's
Wow.
what. So that's definitely one of the things that you got to make sure, if you have a tendency to cramps, to stretch a little bit more and make sure that you're warm before you do the exercise. So as an example, I'll use me because it doesn't happen very often that I cramp in my foot. But if I'm trying to do yoga, exercise, or stretch, and I'm on the mat and it is not as warm, I tend to get cool easy, probably because I'm thin. Then I'll get some cramps. So be careful with that. Make sure that you're warm and that you stretch quite a bit. One of the things that is good for the arch too is you simply take a tennis ball. And this one is good to do when you're sitting in front of the TV, in front of a computer, and just roll the ball under your feet in order to get the fascia under, that we call the plantar fascia. That's the one that you want to help to stretch a little bit. Not easy to stretch, okay, compared to any other muscle, but to take care of it, just do what I just mentioned. Tennis ball, not too hard, soft, roll it back and forth under your feet.
Oh, that's really great. See, you don't even have to go to a physical therapist. You can just do that at home, and that could be very
Well,
helpful.
wait a
Good
minute. If
advice.
there's pain,
Oh yeah,
and that, I'm not against the physical therapist,
yeah,
but just to prevent discomfort.
right. Very good. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so here's an interesting question. Can you exercise after a COVID vaccine? I guess that's something
Mm.
you would think about. Yeah, if you always, what do you say?
Yeah, that's interesting. Good question. It's definitely appropriate nowadays. So, if you get it right after, most people won't have too much reaction right after, let's say 1 to 2 hours after. But, usually you'll say that the majority of people within the 24 hours will have a little something. It's nothing major. For some people it is. But sometimes I'll have a little bit of fever and discomfort, so you may not feel like you want to exercise. It's not a contraindication. It's not like you cannot, but I don't think you will enjoy it. To do the exercise after your COVID.
Yeah, so I guess you just should listen to your
Not
body.
dangerous. Mm.
Okay, well because people just want to know. That's a good question. I'm glad
It
that you
is.
asked
It
that.
is a good
Yeah.
question. Mm-mm.
Okay, here's something we can talk about. Matt wants to know, should I use a heart rate monitor during my workouts?
Yeah, it all depends also of your condition. Some people that have some some health condition, you got to be careful, and the heart monitor is not a bad idea, that's for sure. And if you don't have a heart monitor, then you can have an idea of, I always tell, because I was an obstetrician, women will ask me, is that okay if I do exercise? And I said, listen, as long as you're able to talk with people, you can tell that your heart rate is not excessive. That was for obviously pregnant women. For other people, nowadays these heart monitor are so easy access, that and they're not necessarily precise. So if you have a band monitor, they're much more precise than the one on the hand. Maybe they're getting better now, but I've tried some where there's a lot of variation. So you got to be careful with that. But, not a bad idea. You got to be careful, obviously, to know a little bit about, what should be around your heart rate, depending of your age. So usually we do the easy calculation of 220 minus your age, gives your maximal heart rate. And don't necessarily play with the maximal heart rate. But that would be a good way for you to get an idea. Oh, wow, I'm close to the maximum here. You will know before you see the number. When you're out of breath and you can even talk, that's a little too much.
Okay, well, that's good to know. We just had someone send in a question asking about during pregnancy for exercise. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I'm not, and I'm all for exercise during pregnancy. I always encourage my patient to be active. It's really helpful. Probably a modification of their exercise. So I would always encourage more walking than other sport. You can try biking, but eventually the abdomen is so much discomfort. But other aerobic type of exercise like ski walking or things like that is okay. But again, like I mentioned earlier, if you're able to maintain a conversation, your heart rate is not excessive, and that's fine. Do exercise, move a little bit during pregnancy. That's definitely a good. And there's new type example, yoga for pregnant women. There's all these have been adapted for women that are pregnant. So please, as long as you go to somebody who's been trained, it's fine.
Yeah, that's good advice. I'm glad you talk about yoga. When I first began, because I do different types of exercises throughout the week. And on Sundays, I do yoga because I don't like to have a rest day, but that's my personality. I'm all or nothing. But yoga really, it is a very good method for exercise. And I think people discount that. Do you want to talk about some of the benefits of yoga?
Yeah, I'll say first thing that I heard from you, which is great, is that you vary a lot what you do. So by doing a lot of variation, you don't get bored and you decrease your risk of injury for repetitively. Let's say you're a runner and you run every day. That's how you can get more injury. So it's good to vary the exercise. Now, the other thing I heard from you too, so it's hard for you to take a day off, which is usually not a bad idea, especially, when I have athletes. My gosh, it's hard to let them know that the day off is as important as the training because we're increasing progressively. And I want to make sure that people understand that I'm happy to follow people that are more active, like doing exercise to a higher level. I've done that as well, but you have to teach that it is important to take a rest day. Obviously for us and maybe for you as well, we're not as active. It's not the end of the world if we do exercise every day because we're not, excessively active. Now, going back to what you're asking, yoga, definitely when I was younger, I would look at yoga like if it was the worst thing that I would do ever. Let's be clear. That wasn't part of who I was. But when you age, you realize the importance of what we discussed earlier, the flexibility and the balance. So I would definitely say that it does have a place. It varies now, you don't have to do an hour of yoga. You can have so many places where you can do your, let's say, weight training to do a 15 minutes yoga at the end. So you can add that to your exercise without feeling that you have to go for an hour and a half of yoga, which sometimes is a little bit difficult. Some of the paw are not easy, but it's a good challenge. Definitely part of what we should be attempting. And to me, I put them in the same category as Pilates. Pilates is good as well.
Right. So now the Pilates is I think I did it one time, but I think is it kind of like yoga, but you're putting a lot of quick movements in. Is that
Yeah,
what you would
yeah, there
distinguish
is,
them?
and to me, I like it for I see there's the flow in yoga, but the Pilates is a little bit more of the stretching and definitely more core. where you work more into the core and the balance of the body. So I hope that I'm saying it right. I don't want yoga teacher to think that I'm not saying the right thing for them, but that's how I see it myself for the Pilates. I like both,
Uh-huh.
but not every day. I
Right.
will admit that is not what I would do every day. Would I bike every day? Yep, I would. So that's just the way we are.
Right. And that's the thing. If people could just keep trying different things, they may find something that they do enjoy doing, and like you said, that they would do every day and not even think
You
about
know, it's such a good example. So January 1st is coming.
it.
And we know that there's going to be millions of people that will decide that they're going to do something. And I just want to encourage them. This is amazing. But please take time to listen to what I said earlier. Do not imagine yourself of doing 5 times a week, an hour and a half. That is not going to happen. You're going to, fail. After 3 weeks, you're going to decide this is it. I'm not doing this. So start very slow. Do one thing at a time. Maybe it's once a day, like I said. Put those running shoes right in front of you. Look at them. The day after, do for a minute, 2 minutes. It seems simple and crazy. At the end of the month, you're suddenly doing 15 minutes. At the end of 3 months, you've been able to do more. Please go progressively to be successful. Do not do like the majority and fail by putting too much on your plate. This is what the society of us now are doing. We want to do the biggest thing. We want to be the best of ourselves, but the best of ourselves is going to fail if we put too much high of a level that we want to achieve.
Okay, very good. Guys, listen to that. But we encourage you to adopt an exercise program if you haven't, but keep those things in mind. So when you're lifting weights, let's say, because I was showing earlier that I had these dumbbells here, do you have to do it quickly or you do it slowly? Is it, I mean, what is the form for when you're
Yeah.
just doing real
So
crawl?
again, that is first personal, but there's different component depending of what you want to achieve, in the age that you are. Some people wants to get volume. They want to get big muscle. So eventually, you have to lift heavier. Sometimes multiple repetition, and you have to be close to the highest weight that you can lift. If you look at CrossFit, they tend to do their exercise very fast. This is the way that the CrossFit was, made. And CrossFit in itself if you look at the beginning, it's basically to help people to be able to do their things on a day-to-day basis. So they adapt the exercise for that. It's interesting, but it's done pretty fast. So it all depends what's your goal. Depends how old you are also, because I don't think I would encourage, even if somebody is, let's say, 80 and want to get big muscle. I'm not going to say you go do CrossFit. I'm not saying that's impossible, but they say it may not represent the best. So the thing is to start with a certain level. If you're able to lift 5 pounds and do it 5 times, and I'm not saying rushing, I think it is excellent in having the chance to take your time to go up. And then the eccentric, we call it eccentric move, when you're putting it down, you're still building quite a bit of muscle when you do that. So you start with a smaller weight, and then you progress not only with weight, but day-to-day repetition and series. So if you do 1 or 2 this week, maybe next week, you're going to do 3 times 5 pounds 10 times. So 3 times 10 times 5 gives you the chance to progress. So it's very difficult to really be precise on saying you are going to do this. We're all different, and it all depends what you want to achieve. So at my age, I have stopped in my mind to achieve that I was going to build muscle. I'm a small individual. I am actually much more muscle than the majority of people. I didn't show you my muscle for the size that I am, but I will never be somebody who's going to have, big muscle, and I would never be able to be an excellent in CrossFit. I had the build of a woman, of a runner. I have long legs, a short body, and tight little muscle. But that's just the way I am built. So even if you are dreaming, you can dream, but it doesn't mean it's going to get where you want.
Right. And we could talk a little bit about sarcopenia as far as how we age. Do you want to talk a little bit about that since we were talking
So
about
I think
muscle?
that it goes through everything we've discussed, but it is true that it's something that happened, as we age. As much as we talk about osteoporosis, we lost our bone mass and we're at risk of fracture. When we age, we tend to lose the muscle mass, just because of the aging. But the other reason is because we do not remain active. So if you were to, and we've got some good example of population of, especially men. We don't see it as much in women, but it will happen. Of men that had continued doing their exercise, they may not be as muscular as they were when they were younger, but they're definitely much more muscular than they would be if they were not doing anything. Sarcopenia is a big problem, because the more we see it, the least people are able to do their activity, day-to-day activity, talking about going to do, like I said earlier, their grocery, simple element that cannot be done because they're fatigued so early. So don't, and then we always think that it's never going to happen to us. It's always creeping on us. So please make sure that you make the effort to, do exercise that will allow to maintain the muscle. And that doesn't mean that you have, again, to go to the gym and lift heavy weight, but just having bands and even can that you, when you're cooking, doing those exercise allow you to maintain these muscle. Now, it all depends who are the people that are listening. Some of your people are probably younger and they say, I want to do more than can, and that's fine. But when sarcopenia, the loss of muscle happen, it's usually more after 60s, and then it keeps going. So it's very important that we maintain the mass. I'm certainly doing different type of exercise than I used to do when I was younger. I was, it was just natural to be a little bit more muscular when you're young. So the running was excellent. And then when you hit the 50, then you realize, wait a minute, I got to be careful here. And then you add things that may not seem to be too interesting at first, but then you kind of enjoy it to do a little bit of the weight, especially during for us, for me here in Vermont, it's cooler during December, and therefore it's okay for me to be inside and do a little bit more weight or yoga or Pilates.
Okay, great. And then we were talking a little bit about osteoporosis, and Amy said, what do you think about wearing a weighted vest when we walk for osteoporosis, and how much weight is good?
That is a very good question. And yes, wearing a weight vest is very good. It doesn't have to be excessively heavy, if you carry, because it all depends again of how big you are. You can have a weight vest. You can simply carry a backpack that would allow you to put different can of weight inside. But it doesn't have to be excessively heavy. If you could put more and more so that you feel that you're carrying more. But in order to help to prevent the osteoporosis, if you only put, let's say, 10 pounds more, would already make a difference. So it's very good suggestion here.
Yeah, I guess you could just start off small and then see how you feel, because you have to come home.
Good point. Good point. You always have those good comments here.
Oh, well, let's see. I think we have another question. Somebody had asked about back pain. So if you have back pain, but you still want to keep exercising, and I guess if it's just, chronic back pain where that's just what's going to be happening to you, what would you
Yeah,
recommend as
it's a little
something?
bit more tricky on that. I would recommend first to know exactly what's the cause of the back pain. So, I'm sure that if you say that, you probably have seen your primary care, or you've seen somebody, a physical therapist that had tell you what was the back pain, because it's hard to say, oh yeah, go ahead and do exercise. So you got to make sure that you see somebody, and maybe they will recommend, to do exercise with a physical therapist to mention what are the exercise that might be the most appropriate for you. So I think this one, I would be careful just to make sure, since I've never necessarily met the person, what is the pain exactly, and just to make sure your physician allows you to do the exercise.
Well, that's a great answer. We actually interviewed somebody who is an expert in back pain, and we'll put a link to that also. And he
Perfect.
talked about that it does vary with people, even walking. That for
Yeah,
some people it would be important for them to walk, but maybe other people they may not want to at different
exactly.
phases of their pain. So yeah, that's just
Mhm.
something. It's hard to do that, but this is something that these individual types of questions are the types of questions that people could bring to you at plant-based telehealth, so that you could go over their medical records and know their background, and maybe give them a little bit more advice that's more appropriate for their individual circumstance.
Absolutely. And the combination of the plant-based and exercise, easy for people to be confused. So I'll be happy to assist you.
Yeah. So I think that eating plant-based helps with recovery. What do you think, Dr. Fontaine?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, the book, as an example, that talks about all these athletes, kind of define very well how good they feel on the plant based compared to when they were on a regular diet. Their performance is better, they sleep better, they can perform in being having better result. And just us by being not being necessarily a professional athlete, I can say that in my recuperation is better. I don't feel as fatigued. So that's huge, makes such a big difference.
Okay, and let's talk about, because sometimes you like to talk about the different pillars of health, and we've talked to you so many times when you've come on the show about the plant-based lifestyle. But then we also today we're talking about the pillar health of exercise. So how does that affect the one of the other pillars of health, which is sleep?
You mean the exercise? It's no question there. And unless you do your exercise, 15 minutes before you go to bed, exercise is part of helping you to get a good pattern of sleep. So I always encourage that's one of the elements that I mentioned to people. I said, listen, if you add the exercise, which of people have difficulty sleeping, the exercise usually will help them with getting a better sleep easier to fall asleep, and usually sleep a little bit longer once they start and having something regular. Good point.
Yeah. And also you would recommend getting good sleep as far as being having that you be the most effective when you are exercising.
Oh, I think that if you exercise, it's kind of push you to sleep better. You get tired, so it's part of it. It's so I
Yeah.
think you could, but
Yeah.
ideally, once you start exercising, you need more rest, and the rest allow you to exercise better. So it goes together.
Yeah, it does. You're right. Okay. So Jim asks, he said, I sit at work all day. Is a foot pedal exercise effective? I get I guess that's one of those things that you put under your desk, and it's kind of just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Everything that allows you to move is good. So, as long as you don't do it wrong and create any injury, if it allows you to move, it's good. I mean, it's fantastic for people that have a chance to have a standing table or being able to walk when they're working. Fantastic. But that one, perfect. This is what you have and you can move, go for it.
Okay, very good. Well, look at the time. My goodness. We had really a lot of great questions. I'm really happy that our audience participated so much today. And any of you guys, if you are listening or watching, and whatever you think was a pearl of wisdom that you learned today, if you can type that in the comments, because that helps people in the future when they're looking to see what this video is about. So I really wanted to thank you so much, Dr. Fontaine, for coming. You're just such a joy to have, and you have so much knowledge in so many different areas, and you're just so helpful to me to get this word out about the healthy living. So not just a whole food plant-based lifestyle, but just a healthy living in general, which is so important. And if you could tell our audience just what would be your closing comments as far as exercise? What would you want to tell them about that?
Get moving. It's simple. Just get moving. I like the idea of the little pedal under his, me, I most of the time I do my, things on the computer standing, part of my day, my exercise is part of my day, just like you. Eventually it becomes a habit and you love it.
Right. Okay. Well, that's very good advice. So guys, stay tuned for a special announcement. I wanted to also thank someone that's been in the background, and that's our engineer, Rebecca from PKA Solves. And she's just been so fabulous helping us with all the posting the comments and doing the camera views and helping Dr. Fontaine. So it's been really great to have Rebecca on. And I also wanted to thank Jess Tass from Jess Tass Voice. She did the countdown and she did all the promos. Hey, Jess Tass Voice, tell us who's coming up next.
Now you can listen to Be Green with Amy expert interviews wherever you go. Listen while walking, meal prepping, or traveling. Find Be Green with Amy on Apple, Google, Alexa, Amazon, or virtually anywhere you find podcasts. Be strong, be well, and be green with. At age 72, Esther went from size 26 to size 6. Esther lost 155 pounds, and her husband Ben lost 80 pounds. Learn hacks and tips to stay plant-based while traveling. Join us on Monday, December 20th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, on Be Green with Amy, live.
Well, I'm so glad that all of you were here and watching, and I'm really glad that you came, because without you, we can't spread this word. We need the audience participation, and we need you to like and share, and I'm really glad that you're here. You're the reason why we're here, and want to really spread the word about this lifestyle, not just the whole food plant-based lifestyle, but also about the other pillars of health, including what we talked about today, which is exercise. So if you guys want to join me, I'm going to be signing off with Dr. Fontaine with my Be Strong, Be Well, and Be Green. And if you want to type that in the comments, then we can do it all together. Are you ready, Dr. Fontaine? Yes. Okay. Until I see all of you guys again, remember, be strong, be well, and be green. Bye-bye, everyone.
Now you can listen to Be Green with Amy expert interviews wherever you go. Listen while walking, meal prepping, or traveling. Find Be Green with Amy on Apple, Google, Alexa, Amazon, or virtually anywhere you find podcasts.